Hi, I'm Laura. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the month of May of 2008. I am now 32 years old and I have had symptoms as early as the age of 17. My first symptoms were visual, not being able to see properly, having what is known as a migraine aura, or a really fuzzy background, but there would be no migraine present. I was unofficially diagnosed with MS when I was 23 and living in the Middle East. I had what now we know was a really nasty bout with optical neuritis, and the ophthalmologist was pretty darn sure that multiple sclerosis was what was causing it. I was in Saudi Arabia at the time, which is a country that has a very, very low incidence of MS because of its proximity to the equator. And so it wasn't really well known. I wasn't prepared to pay 2 months worth of salary just to have an MRI, because even if it did turn out to be definite MS, what was I going to do? The cost of the meds to treat MS, whether it be Avonex, Copaxone, Rebif, Betaseron, which is all that was available at the time, is extremely expensive, to the tune of about 20,000 US dollars a year. So knowing whether I had MS or not at the time really didn't matter, since I already had doctors treating me for the symptoms. When I returned to Canada in 2007, I finally was referred to a wonderful doctor, a neurologist who specialized in MS, who did run the MRI as well as other testing, and surely enough, I came back with 6 lesions on my brain and on my spine. And along with my history and history of relapses, they diagnosed me as having relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. In March of 2009, I went to the hospital after speaking with my neurologist because of extremely bad back pain, back spasms. I was having trouble with my balance, trouble walking. So he suggested I go into the ER, hopefully to get some pain control and also some steroids for what looked like was an oncoming relapse. I walked into the Royal Alex Hospital in Edmonton on the night of March 15th actually, and that was the last time I walked. By the time I got to the ER, I was barely able to stand, and within about 48 hours I was unable to walk or had very strange or limited sensation below the T10 or waist area. It was a very scary event. I ended up spending 4 months in the hospital from this. Doctors did give me steroids and painkillers to help treat what was going on, but I did not regain my ability to walk. I was diagnosed as having paraparesis, which is a form of paralysis, but at the same time, I still did have pretty good sensation. I had a bit of movement, so hence the different diagnosis. I was in the Alex for about 10 weeks, and then I spent 6 weeks at the Glenrose Rehab Hospital here in Edmonton for a rehab. They were not able to get much back as far as my ability to walk, so I was basically discharged home in a wheelchair. I managed pretty well. Actually, in the fall I started regaining a bit of movement in my legs, which is wonderful. I was really happy about that and hoping to get back into rehab to try to extrapolate on that and hopefully get some more movement and at least somewhat of an ability to walk. However, I had another relapse in January of 2010, which, while I was still able to use a bit of that movement, I lost a lot of that improvement. So I was back down to square one, so to speak. I was reassessed at the Glenrose through the outpatient program, and the physiotherapist prescribed me an exercise regime that I could use to hopefully get a bit more strength so they can work with me with their outpatient program. Before I really got much improvement in that area, though, I started getting another really bad relapse in July, where I was no longer able to transfer to my wheelchair. My arms started feeling extremely heavy. I did not know what was going on. And again, after emailing my neurologist back and forth a few times, it was decided I better get into the hospital. Within a few days, I could barely move. I was there on total care, total feeding, unable to move my arms, move anything except my neck and head, and a bit of shoulders, which was scary. You know, there's nothing like having to be fed by a nurse to really take down your self-esteem. I ended up staying in the hospital this time 6 weeks and was diagnosed with quadriparesis, which is basically all my 4 limbs were affected by the MS. Altered sensation, some areas I have no feeling at all. There's also a bowels, bladder that's also affected. Anything below the neck is abnormal, and really it sucks. But what really pisses me off big time is the fact that after having seen my neurologist yesterday, I have found out that I no longer qualify for government funding for any of the MS meds that are currently available. When I was diagnosed in 2008, and after discussing it with my doctor and the MS nurse, I had chosen to go on to Betaseron, which is one of the main MS medications for relapsing remitting MS. And I obviously didn't do too well on it, because after that, it was the first time I ended up in the hospital. In July, after I was discharged the first time from the hospital, my neurologist suggested we put a hold on the Betaseron, which I did, and I did not go back on it. After this relapse and being discharged again yesterday, I was chatting with him about the possibilities of different medications. I would really like to try Tysabri, which is an intravenous medication that is given once a month. But to do that in Alberta, you have to have tried the other 2 forms of medication. One, the interferons, which is Betaseron, Rebif, or Avonex, which I had tried the Betaseron, or you have to have tried the Copaxone. I'm a bit reluctant about taking Copaxone because I'm afraid that any medication that causes welts when it comes into contact with your skin obviously is not the best thing to have injected into your body. But at the same time, what do I have to lose? Obviously, I'm losing movement, and I'm actually afraid to, get stuck on a ventilator next time? So, yeah, I'm a bit open to treatment, and my doctor also brought up the thought of chemotherapy, which scares the heck out of me, and I definitely do not want to try. So, we were chatting, and it looks like I might not even qualify for the Copaxone because I can't walk. He assessed my EDSS, which is the disability scale, as being a 7.5, which means I do not walk, or at least not more than 5 meters, according to the scale. And as such, the government will not approve any of the basic MS treatments available to people with relapsing remitting MS. Whether I am now relapsing remitting or progressive as far as MS diagnosis is concerned, I don't know. My MRIs indicate that I still have RRMS, but my symptoms are obviously more of a progressive nature. And because of that, unless I'm literally up and walking, I'm not entitled to specific treatment. I think this is wrong. I'm a single mom. I have 2 young daughters aged 4 and 5. I need to be around for them, and not being able to access more commonly accepted drugs really sucks. I don't know what to do about it, and I'm hoping to find a solution, whether it be to petition my MLA, which is the member of the Legislative Assembly, or whether I should start with the MS Society a letter writing campaign regarding this. I'm hoping that at least You can try to apply and see what happens, along with entering a bit of extra paperwork in the process. Really, it seems that people just continuously fall through the cracks.